My God, mother-in-law, did you seriously come to your own husband's funeral in that cheap dress? Vanessa Cole's voice cut through the solemn silence of the chapel like a harsh slap. It's embarrassing. You look like a pauper. All eyes instantly fixed on me. My simple, elegant black dress, which I had chosen specifically for its understated appearance, seemed to deeply offend my daughter-in-law. What she didn't know was that this supposedly cheap piece had actually cost me $80,000. Vanessa, please, we're saying goodbye to Dad, whispered Jason, my son, sounding strained. But my daughter-in-law had already found her audience. No, Jason, someone has to say it. I work in high-end boutiques. I recognize quality when I see it. And this, she pointed at my dress with unconcealed disdain, this is a clearance rack special. Your mother has zero class. Her friends, Brooke Miller and Paige Turner, nodded like little sheep, whispering among themselves. The murmur of disapproval spread through the pews. I remained silent, hands clasped, pretending her words cut me deep. Poor Thomas, Vanessa continued, raising her voice even louder. He must be turning over in his grave, seeing his widow didn't even have the respect to dress decently for his send-off. How humiliating for the entire family. Tears began to well up in my eyes, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of pure pent-up rage. This woman dared to humiliate me on the most painful day of my life, completely unaware that I was the owner of the very brand for which she worked as a mere sales associate. Just look at her, she pressed on with her performance. She can't even afford a decent dress. Jason, you really should give your mother some money so she can buy something appropriate. I smiled inwardly. If she only knew that my closet held over 200 designer dresses, that my bank account had more zeros than there were days in the year, and that her pink slip was already signed and waiting in my private office. My daughter, Lauren, gently touched my arm and whispered, Mom, don't listen to her. She's being cruel. But I needed to hear more. I needed Vanessa to keep digging her own professional grave. You know what, Jason? Vanessa directed her voice dramatically toward her husband. When we have children, I hope they never end up like your mother. So utterly basic. She gave me a pitiful look. Look at her. She doesn't even know how to dress for such an important occasion. The snickers from her friends grew louder. Brooke Miller even dared to comment. It's true, Van. I work in retail too, and that dress couldn't have cost more than $100. If they only knew that the mother-of-pearl buttons on my dress alone cost $500 each. Exactly, Brooke, Vanessa retorted. That's why I say she has no class. At the boutique where I work, we cater to sophisticated clients, women who truly understand fashion and elegance, right? She gestured toward me dismissively. My son Jason looked intensely uncomfortable, but didn't say a word. Typical. He'd always been a coward when it came to confronting his wife. Vanessa, that's enough, Lauren finally intervened, her voice firmer. No, let her be, I said finally, my voice sounding soft and slightly broken. She's right. I don't understand these elegant things like she does. Vanessa smiled triumphantly. At least you admit it. Look, mother-in-law, it's not your fault you were born without good taste, but you could at least make an effort not to embarrass the family in public. Her friends applauded discreetly. Paige Turner added, with false sympathy, Oh, the poor thing. It must be hard not having the resources to dress appropriately. Precisely, Vanessa continued, emboldened. Imagine showing up to your own husband's funeral, dressed like you're running to Walmart for groceries. She just has no common sense. The whispers intensified throughout the chapel. I could hear fragments. What a shame. The poor woman. How embarrassing. Perfect. The more people who witnessed this public humiliation, the sweeter my revenge would be. And those shoes, Vanessa went on, pointing at my classic black pumps. They look like something you'd find at a flea market. Goodness, if I were her, I'd be ashamed to leave the house like that. Those pumps were a $12,000 custom pair, but she would never know. "Look, mother-in-law," she said condescendingly, leaning in toward me. "I know you don't have much money, but the next time you need to dress for something important, I can lend you something from my wardrobe. I have connections at the best stores." The irony was delicious. This woman, who earned a base of barely $3,000 a month selling my clothing in my boutique, was offering to lend me dresses. If only she knew that I personally signed her paycheck. "That's very kind of you, Vanessa," I replied in a trembling voice. "But I wouldn't want to cause you any trouble." "It's no trouble. It's Christian charity," she responded with a fake smile. "It's what any decent person would do in my place." Her friends murmured their approval. Brooke Miller even commented, "You're an angel, Van. Not everyone would be so generous to someone so limited." Limited. The word echoed in my mind. If they only knew that my limitation included owning 17 luxury boutiques, 3 textile factories, and a fortune exceeding $100 million. Furthermore, Vanessa added, now addressing the entire congregation, "I think we can all learn a lesson from this. The importance of education, of having aspirations, of not settling for mediocrity." The discreet applause confirmed that she had achieved her goal, turning my husband's funeral into her personal show of moral superiority. "Poor Thomas," she sighed theatrically. "He was always worried about his mother-in-law. He used to say he didn't know how she'd manage without him. He was right about one thing. My late husband always worried about me, but not for the reasons she imagined. He knew my heart was too kind, that I forgave too easily. He always told me, 'Eleanor, the day I'm gone, don't let anyone trample on you.' That day had arrived. After the spectacle Vanessa created at the funeral, I drove home in my 2015 Honda Civic, a car I deliberately chose to maintain my facade as a poor, helpless widow. The truth was, my private garage held a Bentley, a Mercedes S-Class, and a Porsche that no one knew about. But today, I needed to continue being the Eleanor everyone thought they knew. The unrefined mother-in-law, the widow without resources, the woman who, according to my daughter-in-law, had no trace of elegance. Arriving at my modest apartment, I slipped off my $12,000 pumps and poured myself a glass of wine. Not just any wine, but a vintage Bordeaux that cost $5,000 a bottle. But to the outside world, I was the lady who bought boxed wine at the grocery store. My phone rang. It was Lauren, my daughter. "Mom, I'm so sorry about what happened today. Vanessa behaved horribly." "Don't worry, sweetheart," I replied in a tired voice. "I'm used to her comments. But it's not right, Mom, to act like that at Dad's funeral. It's inhuman." Lauren didn't know the truth about my financial situation. I had decided years ago to keep my own children in the dark. It was safer that way, less complicated, and it allowed me to truly see the people around me. "I'm going to talk to Jason tomorrow," Lauren continued. "He can't let his wife treat you like that." "No, please don't do that. I don't want to cause trouble in their marriage." But the trouble was already brewing. Vanessa didn't know it yet, but her employer would receive a very specific phone call tomorrow. After hanging up, I went to my secret study, a room none of my children knew about, hidden behind a seemingly normal bookshelf. There lay my true treasures, the contracts for my companies, the financial statements for my boutiques, and of course, the personnel files for all my employees, including Vanessa Cole, sales associate, level 2, at my flagship store with a base salary of $3,000 a month plus commission. I opened her file and reviewed her history. 3 warnings for tardiness, 2 customer complaints about a dismissive attitude, and a supervisor's report noting her unwarranted air of superiority. Perfect. I picked up my private phone, the one I only used for business matters, and dialed Sandra Lewis, my HR director. "Miss Brooks, I'm so very sorry for your loss," Sandra said with genuine sorrow. "Thank you, Sandra, but I need you to handle a personal matter tomorrow." "Of course, name it. Vanessa Cole, employee at the downtown boutique. I want you to meticulously review her performance over the last 6 months. Any specific issues? Let's just say she's demonstrated a lack of respect for customers that I simply don't tolerate in my company. Sandra understood perfectly. She'd been working with me for 15 years and knew that when I spoke in this tone, things were serious. Understood. You want me to prepare the documentation for disciplinary action. Prepare everything, but we'll wait for the right moment. After hanging up, I sat in my Italian leather chair and reflected on the day's events. Vanessa's public humiliation had only been the appetizer. She had no idea she had just declared war on the wrong person. My late husband Thomas always told me I was too kind, too tolerant. Eleanor, he would repeat, some people confuse kindness with weakness, and when that happens, you have to teach them the difference. For 40 years of marriage, he had been my protective shield. Thomas knew about my businesses. He was my silent partner, my most trusted advisor. Together, we built an empire from scratch, always keeping to the shadows, always pretending to be a regular middle-class family. But Thomas wasn't here to protect me from vipers like Vanessa anymore. Now I would have to protect myself. And I would do it with the style that only a 70-year-old woman with 50 years of business experience could command. The next day, while Vanessa was bragging on social media about her act of charity and offering to lend me clothes, I was in my executive office reviewing the numbers for all my companies. My personal assistant, an efficient woman named Mia Park, who had been with me for 20 years, walked in with a coffee tray. "The monthly reports, Miss Brooks," she said, placing a pile of documents on my mahogany desk. "How are sales looking at the downtown boutique? Excellent numbers this quarter. The new collections have been very well received, and the personnel." Mia hesitated for a moment. "There are a few situations that require attention. Tell me." "Vanessa Cole has had several incidents with clients. Apparently, she makes comments about who can and cannot afford certain pieces." "Interesting." "My daughter-in-law had not only humiliated me, but she was also driving away my customers with her snobbish attitude." "Anything else?" "Security cameras caught some questionable behavior. She uses her personal phone for hours during work. She's constantly late, and yesterday she was seen taking photos with merchandise she didn't buy." Every word was another nail in her professional coffin. "Mia, I want you to schedule a meeting with me for next Friday with all the management of the downtown boutique. Any specific reason?" I smiled for the first time since Thomas's funeral. It's time to make some personnel changes. The week after the funeral unfolded like a perfectly orchestrated symphony of family hypocrisy. Vanessa took every opportunity to remind everyone how generous she had been with me, offering her wardrobe and her connections to the fashion world. On Wednesday morning, I received a call from Jason, my son. "Mom, Vanessa told me she offered to help you out with your wardrobe situation." "Yes, she was very kind," I replied submissively. "Look, Mom, I know Dad handled all the finances, and things must be tough for you now, if you need any money." How ironic. My own son offering me money when I could buy his entire house with the cash in my personal safe. "Don't worry, Jason. I'll manage with your father's pension. Are you sure? Because Vanessa says your apartment looks pretty basic, and your clothes. Your wife is right. I don't understand fashion like she does." I could hear the satisfaction in his voice. Well, she really knows the business. She works at one of the city's most exclusive boutiques. Her bosses really trust her. If only he knew I was the exact boss they trusted so much. "She must be very talented," I murmured. "She is. In fact, she's expecting a promotion. Her supervisor told her there's a chance she'll be moved up to junior manager." Interesting information. Sandra Lewis hadn't mentioned anything about promotions for Vanessa. My daughter-in-law was probably inventing the story to impress my son. I'm happy for her, Jason. "Yeah, and you know what, Mom? When she gets promoted, we'll be earning more money, and we can help you out more often. Maybe we can even take you shopping to some decent places." Every word that came out of my son's mouth felt like another stab. How had I raised a man so blind to his wife's cruelty? "That's very considerate of you, son." After hanging up, I immediately called Mia. "Mia, I need information on any rumors of a promotion for Vanessa Cole." "None, Miss Brooks. In fact, her direct supervisor, Karen Patel, told me yesterday She's considering putting her on probation because of her attitude with clients. Perfect. Do you have the reports I asked for ready? Yes, ma'am. Documented incidents, security recordings, and testimonials from clients who complained about her behavior. Excellent work. Now, I need you to do one more thing. Tell me. I want you to discreetly investigate Vanessa and Jason's personal financial situation. Income, expenses, debts, everything. Mia asked no questions. After 20 years of working with me, she knew that when I requested financial information on someone, I had my reasons. On Thursday afternoon, the results arrived on my desk and were even better than I expected. Jason and Vanessa were living completely above their means. Their apartment cost $3,500 a month, more than Vanessa's entire salary. They had credit card debts exceeding $40,000, a car loan of $22,000, and had requested a salary advance from the boutique last month. But the most delightful detail was that they had applied for a mortgage to buy a $250,000 house using Vanessa's imminent promotion and future raise as collateral. The house of their dreams, the future they had planned, all depended on an ascent that was never going to materialize. Friday arrived faster than expected. I dressed in my most understated yet elegant executive attire, a black Chanel suit I had purchased in Paris the year before, paired with my authentic Mikimoto pearls. Nothing flashy, but any fashion expert would immediately recognize the quality. At 10:00 inches the morning, I arrived at the downtown boutique. My boutique. Good morning, Miss Brooks. Karen Patel, the supervisor, greeted me using my married name, as she always did in public. The managers are waiting for you in the office. I walked through the store, observing every detail. The employees worked diligently, attending to clients with professionalism and grace, all except one. Vanessa was leaning on the counter, talking on her cell phone, and laughing loudly. Her uniform was wrinkled, her makeup was overdone, and her attitude was completely inappropriate for the sophisticated environment of my establishment. "Girl, you won't believe this," I heard her say into the phone. "My mother-in-law is so pathetic. I swear, Jason told me yesterday we can take her shopping when I get promoted. Imagine having to teach a 70-year-old woman how to dress." She laughed at her own cruelty, while a customer waited patiently to be served. Yeah, I work at the most exclusive boutique in the city. My boss is super cool. She trusts me a lot. In fact, she's making me a junior manager next week. Lies piled upon lies. Fascinating. So, my mother-in-law showed up to her husband's funeral dressed like a charity case. I swear it looked like she bought her dress at Burlington. I was so secondhand embarrassed. The waiting client moved to another counter, clearly annoyed by the lack of service. "You know what's the funniest part?" Vanessa continued. "Oblivious to everything. She actually thinks her dress was elegant. The poor old lady has no idea what real fashion is." It was at that moment I decided to approach her. "Excuse me," I said softly. Vanessa turned and for a second recognized me, likely because she had never seen me dressed appropriately before. "Oh, mother-in-law, what are you doing here?" she asked, covering the phone with her hand, clearly annoyed by the interruption. "I came to do some shopping," I replied innocently. "Jason gave me some money and said you could help me choose something appropriate." Her attitude changed instantly. The idea of teaching me how to dress visibly excited her. "Oh, that's wonderful." "Got to go," she told her friend. "I have to help my mother-in-law stop making a fool of herself." She hung up the phone and looked me up and down with barely concealed disdain. "All right, mother-in-law. First, we need to establish a budget. How much did Jason give you? Because things aren't cheap here. It's not like that flea market you usually shop at." "Marcus gave me $500. I lied. Vanessa laughed. $500? Oh my God. With $500 here, you can barely afford a pair of earrings. But fine, let's see what we can do with so little." She led me to the accessories section, the cheapest part of the store. "Look, mother-in-law, these scarves are on sale. They're $200 each, but they're very pretty. They could add a touch of class to your style. She picked up one of the scarves and showed it to me condescendingly. See the quality of the silk? This is what true elegance is, not those rags you normally wear. The scarf she held was from my spring collection from last year. I had personally supervised every detail of its design. It's very beautiful, I admitted. Right. I have a good eye for these things. That's why my bosses are going to promote me. They recognize my talent. Just then, Karen Patel approached us. Vanessa, Miss Brooks is waiting for you in the office. Vanessa paled slightly. Miss Brooks? My boss is here. Yes, she arrived a few minutes ago. She said it was urgent. I could see the panic in Vanessa's eyes. But I'm helping a client. I'll take care of the lady. Karen Patel intervened diplomatically. Vanessa looked at me with annoyance. Mother-in-law, I have a very important work matter to attend to. I'll be back in a few minutes to keep helping you. Yes, of course, dear. Go attend to your important matters. I watched her nervously walk away toward the offices on the second floor, completely unaware that she was heading straight for her professional destruction. While Vanessa nervously went up to the office where she thought I would be meeting with her as an employee, I stayed downstairs, savoring the irony of the situation. Karen Patel, my trusted supervisor, approached me with a knowing smile. How was the performance, ma'am? She asked in a low voice. Better than I expected. That woman just sealed her professional fate with her own words. The security recordings caught the entire phone conversation and her behavior toward you. Do you want me to go up now? Let's wait a few more minutes. I want her to get good and nervous wondering where I am. Meanwhile, I decided to take a walk through my store, observing how it functioned without my visible presence. The employees worked professionally, serving every customer with courtesy and knowledge, all except the one who had just gone upstairs. I approached one of the younger sales associates, a girl named Ava Wynn, whom I had hired 6 months ago. Excuse me, I said, pretending to be a regular client. What do you think of the service from the young woman who was here a moment ago? The one with the curly hair. Ava looked up nervously before answering. You mean Vanessa? Yes, I think that was her name. The girl hesitated for a moment, clearly uncomfortable. Well, it's not my place to comment on my colleagues. Just curious. She seemed very confident. Look, ma'am, I'd rather help you. What can I get for you? Her diplomacy impressed me. She was exactly the type of employee I valued. Professional, discreet, loyal. I'm actually just waiting for someone. But tell me, have you worked here long? 6 months. It's my first job in luxury retail, and I really love it. And what's the work environment like? Ava glanced toward the stairs again. Most of my colleagues are wonderful, very professional, always willing to help. But, she stopped. But I shouldn't say this, but some people think working here gives them the right to treat others badly, as if the boutique's glamour went to their head. Exactly what I suspected. Have you seen specific situations? Well, I've seen how some employees judge customers by their appearance before serving them, as if they decide who can and cannot afford to shop here. That goes against everything we were taught in training. And what did they teach you in training? That all customers deserve the same respect and attention, regardless of how they look or dress. That our boss, Miss Brooks, says that true elegance comes from respect and humility, not arrogance. My heart swelled with pride. My values were being transmitted correctly, at least to the employees who were worth keeping. Your boss sounds like a very wise woman. She is, although I've never seen her in person. Everyone raves about her. They say she started from the bottom and built this empire with hard work and solid principles. Just then, I saw Vanessa descending the stairs with a look of utter confusion. She walked directly toward me. Mother-in-law, didn't anyone serve you yet? What terrible service, she said, clearly frustrated at not having found her boss upstairs. This young lady was taking very good care of me, I replied, gesturing toward Ava. Vanessa looked at Ava disdainfully. Oh, she's new. She doesn't know anything. I'm the expert here. I've been here longer and have more experience. Ava discreetly stepped away, but I could see in her eyes that she had perfectly understood the kind of person Vanessa was. Did you find your boss? I asked innocently. No, it seemed she had to leave. But it doesn't matter. She was probably just going to tell me about my promotion. She always seeks me out for important things. The lies kept accumulating. Well, in the meantime, we could continue looking at clothes for me. Of course, mother-in-law. But first, let me tell you something important. When I get promoted to manager, I'm going to implement a lot of changes here, especially in customer service. What kind of changes? For example, I'm going to establish a dress code for clients. We can't have just anyone walking in here dressed any old way. This is a luxury boutique, not a bargain mart. Every word was more revealing than the last. And if someone doesn't meet your code, well, I'll politely suggest they go to stores more appropriate for their level. It's for everyone's good. The real clients feel uncomfortable when they see people who clearly don't belong here. Interesting philosophy, I murmured. Exactly. My boss will be so proud when she sees how I improve the store's image. She'll probably give me a bonus for the initiative. She led me to the most expensive dress section of the store, ironically, toward my own most exclusive creations. Look, mother-in-law, these dresses are gorgeous, but they are obviously out of your budget. They cost between $5,000 and $15,000 each. She picked up one of my favorite designs, a champagne-colored gown with hand-embroidered details. See this quality? This is true haute couture. I have a similar one at home. A very important client who was thrilled with my service gifted it to me. Another lie. Employees were strictly forbidden from accepting client gifts, and I personally reviewed all sales reports. It's lovely, I admitted, touching the fabric. Yes, but it's definitely not for you. We need to find you something more realistic, something that matches your current style. She directed me toward a back section where clearance items from past seasons were located. Here are things more in your price range. Look, this gray dress is marked down to $400. It's perfect for ladies your age. The dress she was showing me was indeed from my collection, but from 3 years ago, a design I had discontinued because it didn't meet my quality standards. What do you think of this dress? I asked her. Honestly, it's not much, but for someone like you, it's fine. You don't have the figure or the presence to wear the truly exclusive pieces. Her words hurt me, but not for the reason she thought. It hurt to know that such a cruel and superficial person worked at my company representing my values to the public. You know what, Vanessa? I said finally. I think you're right about my lack of style. She smiled triumphantly. I'm glad you recognize it. It's the first step toward improvement. But I have one question. Tell me, what would happen if someone pretended to be poor but actually had a lot of money? How should you treat that person? Vanessa laughed. Oh, mother-in-law, that only happens in the movies. Rich people don't walk around disguised as poor people. That's ridiculous. But hypothetically, if someone comes in here dressed like you, they definitely don't have money. It's impossible for someone with real resources to dress, so basically, I see. Besides, why would a rich person pretend to be poor? It makes no sense. People with money want it to show. They want to flaunt it. Like my VIP clients, they always arrive impeccably dressed with expensive jewelry in luxury cars. Very logical reasoning. That's why I'm good at this job, mother-in-law. I know how to read people. I know exactly who can afford what and how to treat them accordingly. At that moment, Mia Park, my personal assistant, entered the store discreetly. She saw me and approached. Ma'am, they're waiting for you in the office, she said with a smile. Vanessa looked at her strangely. Excuse me, who are you? I'm Miss Brooks's personal assistant, Mia replied matter-of-factly. And what does my mother-in-law have to do with your boss? Mia looked at me, awaiting instructions. I nodded slightly. Your mother-in-law is my boss. The color drained completely from Vanessa's face. The silence that followed Mia's words was deafening. Vanessa looked at me as if she had seen a ghost. her face cycling through every shade from white to pale green. "What? What did you say?" she stammered, grasping the counter to keep from falling. "What you heard?" Mia replied with professional calm. "Eleanor Brooks is the founder and owner of this chain of boutiques." Vanessa spun around to face me, her eyes wide. "No, it can't be. You live in that small apartment. You drive that old Honda. Your clothes." "My $80,000 clothes," I interrupted gently. "The dress that bothered you so much at my husband's funeral." "Bawen Meiyuan?" She repeated like an echo, unable to process it. "The same dress you considered clearance rack material. The same $12,000 pumps you said looked like they came from the flea market." Her words came out in broken gasps. But I've been working for you for 2 years." "That's right. And during those 2 years, I've received multiple reports about your inappropriate behavior with clients." Mia pulled a folder from her purse. "Would you like me to read the reports, ma'am?" "Please, Mia. I think Vanessa needs to hear exactly what her supervisors have documented about her." Vanessa slumped into a nearby chair, completely in shock. "Report from March 15th, Mia began. "Client complained that employee Vanessa Cole ignored her for 20 minutes because she determined the client did not have the economic profile to shop at the store." "No, that's not." Report from April 22nd. "A 60-year-old client was treated with contempt and condescension, being directed only to clearance items without being asked her preferences or budget." Each report was a slap of reality to Vanessa's face. Report from May 8th. "Employee was seen using her personal phone for 2 hours of her shift, ignoring multiple customers." I can explain." "What are you going to explain, Vanessa?" I asked, my voice tranquil but heavy with authority. "Are you going to explain how you decided to publicly humiliate me at my husband's funeral? Or would you prefer to explain how you just told me that you determine the value of people based solely on their appearance?" Tears began to pour from her eyes. "Ma'am, I didn't know. If I had known." "Exactly, that's the problem, Vanessa. Your respect for people depends on their economic status. You're only kind to those you think have money." I moved closer to her, maintaining my elegant but intimidating posture. "Tell me, what would you have done differently at the funeral if you had known who I really was?" I never would have." "You never would have what?" "You never would have shown your true personality. You never would have revealed how cruel and superficial you are deep down." Vanessa was openly sobbing now. "Please, Miss Brooks, it was a terrible misunderstanding. I respect you very much. I've always respected you. You respected me 5 minutes ago when you told me I didn't have the figure or the presence to wear quality clothes. That was your true opinion of your mother-in-law, the woman who raised the man you love." Vanessa's crying intensified. Other employees had begun gathering discreetly, not coming too close, but clearly aware that something major was happening. "Mia," I told my assistant, "could you read the last report?" "Of course." Report from this morning. Employee Vanessa Cole was recorded by security cameras speaking disparagingly about a client who turned out to be her family member, violating multiple company privacy and professionalism policies. Also, I added, she lied about a non-existent promotion to impress her husband and applied for a mortgage based on that lie. Vanessa sharply raised her head. "How do you know about the loan?" "Vanessa, I know everything I need to know about the people who work for me, especially when those people happen to be family." Mia continued, "The financial investigation shows debts of over $60,000, expenses exceeding family income by 300%, and multiple unreported salary advances." Unreported, I repeated, "which means on top of everything else, you've been lying on your company financial documents." "Ma'am, please. I can explain everything. I needed the money to maintain a lifestyle you can't afford, to flaunt wealth you don't possess, while belittling others for their apparent lack of resources." The irony of the situation was perfect. Vanessa, who had mocked my supposed poverty, was the one who was truly broke. "Vanessa," I said, my voice growing even colder, I want you to understand something very important. I'm not bothered that you didn't know who I was. I'm bothered by how you treated the person you thought I was. But ma'am, I'm bothered that you considered it appropriate to humiliate a 70-year-old widow at her husband's funeral. And I'm bothered that you base your respect for other human beings on the price of their clothing. It wasn't my intention. It wasn't your intention to show your true character, because that is exactly what you did. I turned toward Mia. Do you have the documents ready? Yes, ma'am. Everything is prepared. Vanessa looked at us with mounting terror. What documents? Your termination papers, of course. No, please. I need this job. We have debts, payments, the new house you plan to buy with money from a promotion that never existed. Please, Miss Brooks, I swear I'll change. I'll be different. You'll change. You'll be different. I approached her again. Vanessa, you are 32 years old. If you haven't learned to treat people with basic respect by this age, you're not going to learn it now. But it's my family. I'm your daughter-in-law. Exactly. You are my daughter-in-law, and that makes your behavior even more unforgivable. Mia handed me a folder. The termination documents, ma'am. Thank you, Mia. I took the folder and showed it to Vanessa. Here is your termination letter. Effective immediately. You can't do this. It's personal revenge. Personal revenge? I laughed softly. Vanessa, this is simple application of business policy. Customer mistreatment, misuse of work time, lies on official documents, and multiple violations of the code of conduct. But I need this job. My husband will. Your husband is going to find out many things today, I interrupted, including how his wife treats his mother when she thinks no one important is watching. Vanessa's tears had turned into desperate sobs. Please, I beg you, give me one more chance. You already had your chance, Vanessa. You had it during 2 years of working here, and especially you had it on the day of the funeral, when you could have chosen to show compassion instead of cruelty. But you didn't know. And that is exactly the point. Your true character shows when you think there are no consequences. Mia, I said to my assistant while Vanessa continued to sob, please call security to escort the employee out of the building. No, wait. Vanessa screamed, standing up desperately. It can't end like this. I'm family. Family behaves with mutual respect, Vanessa. You decided to break that. I swear I'll change. Give me one last chance. Like the chance you gave me on the day of the funeral. Like the consideration you showed when you decided to turn the most painful moment of my life into your personal show of superiority. Vanessa approached me with her hands clasped, literally begging, Miss Brooks, please think about Jason. Think about your son. If you take my job, you'll ruin our marriage. I'll ruin your marriage? I looked at her with genuine disbelief. Vanessa, you ruined your marriage the day you decided to publicly humiliate your husband's mother. But he'll hate me. He won't understand. Oh, he'll understand perfectly, especially when I show him the security recordings from today. Her face fell even further. Recordings. Every word you said about me, about my clothes, about my supposed lack of class, every cruel comment you made on the phone thinking no one important was listening. Mia intervened discreetly. Security is on the way, ma'am. Perfect. I turned back to Vanessa. You now have approximately 5 minutes to clear out your locker and turn in your employee badge. This is an abuse of power. It's family persecution. Abuse of power? My voice hardened. Vanessa, the abuse of power was when you humiliated a 70-year-old woman in front of her entire family because you thought you could do it without consequences. But you have millions. I only have this job. And whose fault is that? Did I force you to live beyond your means? Did I force you to lie about non-existent promotions? Did I tell you to apply for loans based on fantasies? Ava Wynn, the young employee who had talked to me earlier, approached timidly. Ma'am, do you need anything? Yes, Ava. I want you to observe this very carefully. This is a lesson on why we treat all customers with the same respect, no matter how they look. Vanessa looked at me with pure hatred. You're going to use this for lessons? Exactly. Your behavior will serve as the perfect example in our future training sessions on what not to do. It's humiliating. Humiliating? I laughed, without humor. Vanessa, you humiliated me at my husband's funeral in front of my family, my friends, people I'd known for decades, and you did it for sport. I was only trying to help her. Help me? By calling me classless, telling everyone I looked like a pauper? The other employees had now gathered closer, clearly fascinated by the drama unfolding. I could see in their faces a mix of shock and, I must admit, satisfaction at finally seeing consequences for Vanessa's toxic behavior. Miss Brooks, Karen Patel, my supervisor, intervened. Do you want us to document this incident to share with the other branches? Excellent idea, Karen. Let it serve as a warning about the consequences of mistreating customers. Vanessa turned to Karen Patel desperately. Karen, you know I'm a good worker. Say something. Karen Patel looked at her with an expression mixing compassion and disappointment. Vanessa, I gave you multiple warnings about your attitude with clients, especially the older ladies, but I never thought, you never thought, what? That the older ladies deserved respect, that they might have more money than they appear to, that they might be connected to important people. It's not that. Then what is it, Vanessa? I asked directly. Explain your philosophy of life to me. Explain why it's okay to mistreat people you consider inferior. I don't consider them inferior. Then why did you treat me as if I were? Why? She stopped, clearly unable to answer, without admitting her true nature. Because you thought you could do it without consequences, I completed for her. Because you thought I was just a poor old lady who had no power to fight back. Just then, 2 security guards arrived. Miss Brooks? Yes. Please escort Miss Cole while she gathers her personal belongings. She no longer works here. Vanessa walked toward her locker with slumped shoulders, escorted by security. But before she reached it, she turned back to me one last time. What are you going to tell Jason? I'm going to tell him the truth, Vanessa. I'm going to show him exactly who the woman he married is. He loves me. He won't care. He won't care that his wife humiliated his mother at his father's funeral. He won't care that you lied about your job to secure loans. He won't care that you put them in a desperate financial situation because of your fantasies of grandeur. Vanessa had no answer for that. As she cleared out her locker, I addressed the employees who had witnessed everything. I want you all to understand something very important. I said, in my stores, we treat every customer as if they were the most important person in the world, regardless of how they dress or how much money they appear to have. They all nodded solemnly. And do you know why? Ava timidly raised her hand. Because it's the right thing to do. Exactly, Ava. Because it's the right thing to do, but also because we never know who the person standing in front of us truly is. Like you today? Another employee asked. Like me today? But more importantly, like anyone who walks through that door. Every customer deserves respect, kindness, and professional attention. Mia approached me again. Ma'am, would you like me to prepare a meeting with Jason for this afternoon? Yes, Mia. It's time for my son to know the whole truth. Vanessa, who had heard this while stuffing her belongings into a box, ran toward me. No, please don't tell Jason anything. Let me explain it to him. You're going to explain it with more lies? No. I'll tell him the truth. What truth, Vanessa? The truth about how you treated me? The truth about your debts? The truth about the fake promotion? Everything. I'll tell him everything. Too late. You had 2 years to tell the truth. You had an opportunity to apologize after the funeral. You chose to lie every time. The guards escorted her toward the exit, carrying her box of belongings. At the last moment, she turned and yelled, "This isn't over. I'll fight this." "Please do," I replied calmly. "It will be interesting to see how you explain your behavior to a judge." A judge? Oh, yes, Vanessa. Defamation, creating a hostile work environment, fraud on business documents. I have enough evidence to keep you busy in court for years. Her face went completely white before the guards finally ushered her out of the building. Once she was gone, silence filled the boutique. The employees looked at me with a mixture of respect, admiration, and a little bit of fear. "Well," I said finally, "I think we've all learned something valuable today." Karen Patel approached. "Miss Brooks, would you like me to call HR to start the replacement process?" "Yes, but I want the new employee to go through a more rigorous interview process, especially regarding values and customer service." "Of course. And Karen, I want Ava to receive an immediate promotion. Her professionalism today was exemplary." Ava blushed and smiled timidly. "Thank you, Miss Brooks. Don't thank me yet. With the promotion comes more responsibility." I left the boutique feeling strangely empty. The revenge I had planned was complete. But now I had to face the hardest part, explaining to my son why I had destroyed his wife's career. But that would come later. For now, I had to prepare the evidence I would show Jason that very afternoon. At 5 that afternoon, Jason arrived at my apartment, his face distraught. He had received my call 2 hours earlier when I urgently asked him to come over because I needed to talk to him about something very important concerning Vanessa. "Mom, what happened?" Vanessa came home crying, saying she was unfairly fired and that you had something to do with it. "Sit down, Jason. What I'm about to tell you is going to change a lot of things." My son sat on the sofa where he had played so many times as a child, where he had come to me for advice during his teenage years. Now at 35, he looked completely lost. "Mom, Vanessa told me something really strange. She says you own the boutique where she worked. That's impossible, right?" I took a deep breath. "Jason, for your entire life, I have kept the true nature of our family's wealth a secret." "What do you mean?" I stood up and walked toward my secret study. "Come with me. It's time you see who your mother really is." When I opened the hidden door behind the bookshelf, Jason gasped. His expression changed from confusion to utter astonishment as he saw my private office filled with business documents, contracts, and photographs of my boutiques. "What is all this?" "This, my son, is the empire your father and I built over the last 40 years. I showed him the property certificates for the 17 boutiques, the contracts for the 3 textile factories, and the bank statements showing figures he had never imagined. "Mom, we're millionaires." "Yes, Jason, we are very rich. We have been rich for most of your life. But why? Why did we live like that? Why did you never say anything?" "Because I wanted you and Lauren to grow up with real values. I wanted you to understand the value of hard work, humility, and respect for all people." Jason collapsed into a chair. "I can't believe it. All this time, you had the chance to show your true character without the corrupting influence of money. And Dad knew? Your father was my partner in everything. Together, we decided to keep this secret until the appropriate time to reveal it. And when was the appropriate time going to be? When you demonstrated you could handle the responsibility? When you showed that your values were firmly established?" Jason looked at me with a mixture of admiration and resentment. "And what does this have to do with Vanessa being fired?" That was the question I had been waiting for. I picked up the folder Mia had prepared with all the evidence. "Jason, your wife has been working at one of my boutiques for 2 years. During those 2 years, she demonstrated repeatedly that she mistreats clients based solely on their appearance." "That can't be true." "No." I pulled out the first report. "It's documented here how your wife ignored a 60-year-old lady because she felt she didn't have the appropriate economic profile to shop at the store." Jason read the report, frowning. This must be a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding." I pulled out the next document. And this. Each report painted a clear pattern of discriminatory and unprofessional behavior. "But the most important thing, Jason, isn't what she did at work. It's what she did to me." "What did she do to you?" "On the day of your father's funeral, your wife decided to publicly humiliate me because of my clothes. She called me classless, said I looked like a pauper. She mocked my dress in front of the whole family." Jason paled. "Mom, Vanessa told me she was only trying to help you." "Help me? You thought it was help when she told me I was pathetic, that I was embarrassing the family, that I looked like a beggar. Mom, I didn't. I thought she was just trying to help. You thought it was okay for someone to treat your mother like that because you assumed she was right about my lack of class. No, it's not that. Then why didn't you defend me? Jason had no answer for that. You know what else I discovered today? I continued, pulling out the financial reports. That your wife has been lying about a non-existent promotion. That you two applied for a mortgage based on future income that was never going to materialize. How do you know that? Because I'm a businesswoman, Marcus. When someone attacks me, I investigate everything about that person. I showed him the documents detailing their debts, their excessive spending, and their desperate financial situation. You owe over $60,000 in credit cards. You live in an apartment that costs more than Vanessa's entire salary. You've been constantly requesting salary advances. Jason buried his face in his hands. My God. Your wife has been living a complete lie, flaunting wealth she doesn't have while making fun of others for their apparent lack of resources. And now what's going to happen? Now, Jason, you have to decide what kind of man you want to be. What do you mean? Can you stand by a woman who humiliated your mother at your father's funeral? Or can you acknowledge that you married someone who doesn't share your family values? Mom, she's my wife. And I'm your mother, the woman who raised you, who taught you about respect and dignity, who sacrificed many comforts to make sure you had an education in values. Jason was silent for a long time. What do you want me to do? I don't want you to do anything, Jason. I want you to make your own decision based on what you know now. And if I choose to stay with Vanessa, then you'll have to live with the consequences of that choice. What consequences? The consequences of choosing someone who believes it's appropriate to humiliate older people for sport. Jason got up and walked to the window. My entire world is falling apart. No, Jason, your false world is falling apart. Now you have the opportunity to build something real. Will you help me? I will always help you, son, but only if you prove you deserve that help. How? By showing me that the man I raised still exists beneath all your wife's toxic influence. Jason turned to me, tears in his eyes. Mom, I'm so sorry I didn't defend you at the funeral. That's the first step, Jason. And the second step is that you decide if you want to remain married to a woman who thinks it's okay to mistreat vulnerable people. Jason nodded slowly. I need time to think. Of course. But Jason, the time you have to think isn't infinite. Some decisions can't be postponed forever. 2 days after my confrontation with Jason, my phone rang at 6:00 inches the morning. It was Lauren, my daughter, and she sounded completely frantic. Mom, what the hell is going on? Jason called me crying at midnight saying you're a millionaire and that Vanessa got fired from your job. It's true. Good morning, Lauren. Yes, it's true. How is it true? Since when are we rich? Why did you never tell me? Lauren, come home this morning. It's time for you to know the truth, too. Mom, I'm in total shock. Jason told me about the boutiques, about the money, about what Vanessa did at Dad's funeral. I can't process it. That's why you need to come. There are many things to explain. And 2 hours later, Lauren was sitting in my living room, looking at the same documents I had shown Jason. Her reaction was completely different from her brother's. Mom, why did you never trust us? I did trust you, Lauren. I trusted that you would become good people without the corrupting influence of money. But we could have had a better life. I could have gone to a private university, had better opportunities. And would you be the same person you are now? Lauren paused, thinking, I don't know. I do know. You would have grown up with privileges you wouldn't have appreciated, with a sense of superiority that would have damaged your character. But look what happened to Jason. He married a horrible woman who despises us. Exactly my point, Lauren. Jason chose Vanessa when he thought we were a middle-class family. That tells me there's something in his character that needs to be examined. What do you mean? I mean that perhaps Jason was attracted to Vanessa precisely because she represented the status and sophistication he felt he was lacking. Lauren frowned. That's pretty deep, Mom. I've had 70 years to observe human behavior, darling. And me? What do you think of my choices? I smiled. You chose to be an elementary school teacher. You work with low-income children. You married a good man who is also a teacher. Your values are in the right place. So now I'm going to inherit all this. You and Jason will inherit everything, but only if you prove you can manage it responsibly. And if Jason chooses to stay with Vanessa, that is a very good question, Lauren. Just then, my phone rang. It was Mia, my assistant. Miss Brooks, Vanessa Cole is here at the main office. She says she needs to speak with you urgently. Vanessa is there? Yes, ma'am. She's quite agitated and says she won't leave until she speaks with you. I looked at Lauren. Would you like to meet your sister-in-law under more authentic circumstances? What do you mean? Vanessa is in my office, probably to beg for her job back. I want to go with you. Perfect. It's time you see exactly what kind of person your brother married. An hour later, Lauren and I arrived at my executive office in my company's main building. It was a space my children had never seen. Marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows with a panoramic view of the city, designer furniture, and original artwork. My God, Mom, Lauren whispered. This is breathtaking. 40 years of hard work, darling. Mia met us in the lobby. She's in the waiting room. She's been there since 8 this morning. Has she said anything? Only that she needs to speak with you about a terrible injustice, and that she won't leave until you listen to her. Perfect. Send her into my office in 5 minutes. Lauren and I settled into my office. I behind my mahogany executive desk, Lauren in a side chair where she could observe the entire interaction. When Mia ushered Vanessa in, her transformation was evident. She was no longer the arrogant, self-assured woman from the funeral. She had deep circles under her eyes, smudged makeup, and her clothes were wrinkled as if she had slept in them. Miss Brooks, she began immediately, thank you for seeing me. I know I made terrible mistakes, but I need you to understand my situation. Sit down, Vanessa. It was then she noticed Lauren. Lauren, what are you doing here? Hello, Vanessa. I'm here learning about people's true character. Vanessa flushed but turned back to me. Ma'am, I've come to ask for a second chance. I know I behave badly, but I can change. You can change? Yes, completely. I can be different. Vanessa, tell me exactly what you think you did wrong. Well, I shouldn't have spoken that way about you at work. That's all. And I shouldn't have used my phone during work hours. Anything else? Vanessa thought for a moment. And I shouldn't have been late. Lauren and I exchanged glances. Vanessa truly didn't understand the gravity of what she had done. Vanessa, I said patiently, what about the funeral? The funeral? Yes, my husband's funeral. Do you recall anything specific from that day? Well, I was trying to help you with your image. Help me? Yes. I thought if I gave you advice on how to dress better. Lauren interrupted her. Vanessa, do you really think publicly humiliating someone is helping? I didn't humiliate her. I was only being honest. There it is, I said to Lauren. The real problem. She doesn't believe she did anything wrong. But I can learn, Vanessa insisted desperately. I can take customer service classes. I can go to therapy. Whatever it takes. And why would you do all that? Because I need the job. We have huge debts. The house we wanted to buy. Jason will hate me if we lose everything because of me. Interesting, I murmured. You haven't mentioned feeling any remorse about hurting me. Of course, I feel remorse. Remorse about hurting me, or remorse about the consequences that brought upon you? Vanessa opened her mouth, but no words came out. Because there's a very important difference between those two things, Vanessa. I feel bad about hurting you. When did you start feeling that? At the funeral, when you were calling me classless, or when you found out who I really am. Vanessa started to cry. Please, Miss Brooks, don't punish me for the rest of my life for one mistake. One mistake? Lauren stood up from her chair. You call humiliating a 70-year-old widow at her husband's funeral a mistake? Lauren, please. No, Vanessa. You've been married to my brother for 2 years, and you never, not once, showed genuine respect for my mother. That's not true. I pulled another document from my desk. I have reports here from 3 family gatherings where you made dismissive comments about my taste, my clothes, my house. Those were just casual comments. Casual comments that revealed your true opinion of me. Vanessa turned to Lauren desperately. Lauren, talk to your mother. Tell her to give me another chance. Why would I do that, Vanessa? Because you're my brother's wife. We're family. Family treats each other with respect. Lauren responded firmly. Something you never understood. But I can learn. At 32 years old, I asked, Vanessa, if you haven't learned basic respect for others at this point in your life, you won't learn it now. That's not fair. Not fair. I stood up from my desk and approached her. You know what's not fair, Vanessa? That a 70-year-old woman has to endure public humiliation on the most painful day of her life. You know what else isn't fair? That my employees have to work with someone who constantly makes them feel bad about themselves. I never what? Never told your colleagues that certain clients didn't belong in the boutique. Vanessa fell silent. Never made comments about people's status based solely on their appearance. More silence. Vanessa, the problem isn't that you made mistakes. The problem is that your behavior revealed your true character. My true character can change. No, Vanessa, your behavior can change out of convenience, but your character is already formed. She broke down completely, sobbing uncontrollably. Then there's nothing I can do. There is something you can do. She lifted her head, hopeful. What? You can be honest with Jason about who you really are. What do you mean? You can tell him that you married him because you thought you could mold him, that you always saw his family as inferior, that you lied about your job to impress him. That's not true. No. Then explain why you never invited Jason to your work events if you were as successful as you claimed. Vanessa couldn't answer. Explain why you never introduced me to your bosses if you had such a good relationship with them. Total silence. Explain why you lied about a promotion that never existed. I wanted Jason to be proud of me, and humiliating his mother was supposed to help with that. Finally, Vanessa understood there was no escape. Vanessa, I said in a voice that was firm but not cruel, I'm going to give you one last opportunity to show some dignity in this situation. What do you mean? Go home, sit down with Jason, and tell him the complete truth about who you are, what you've done, and why you did it. And if I do that, you'll give me my job back. No. Her face fell. Then what's the point? Because it's the right thing to do, Vanessa. For the first time in a long time, you have the opportunity to do something simply because it is right. But I need to work. You'll find another job, but you will never work in any of my companies again. And if Jason leaves me, that is a decision he has to make based on complete information. Vanessa slowly rose defeated. You win, Miss Brooks. You've destroyed me completely. No, Vanessa, you destroyed yourself. I simply refused to remain your victim. After she left, Lauren and I sat in silence for several minutes. Mom, Lauren finally said, do you think Jason will leave her? I don't know, darling, but I hope so. And if he doesn't, then I'll know I didn't raise the man I thought I raised. That night, Jason called. His voice was broken, tired. Mom, Vanessa told me everything. Everything. The lies about her job, the debt she hid, what she truly thinks of our family. And she also told me something else. What? She told me that during our entire marriage, she never felt you were good enough for me. My heart broke a little. I see. Mom, I'm so sorry I was so blind. I'm sorry I failed you when you needed me most. And what are you going to do now, Jason? I already did it. I asked her for a divorce. I felt a mix of relief and sadness. How do you feel? Devastated. but also liberated. As if I've been carrying a weight I didn't know I had. That's normal, son. Can I come see you tomorrow? There are many things I need to talk to you about. Of course, Jason, always. The next day, my 2 children were sitting in my living room, now fully aware of the truth about our family. It was strange, after so many years of secrets, to have everything in the open. Mom, Jason said, I want to formally apologize not just for not defending you at the funeral, but for all the years I didn't fully appreciate what you had done for us. I want to apologize too, Lauren added, for questioning your decision to keep the secret. I understand now that you gave us something more valuable than money. You gave us real values. Your apologies are accepted, but they weren't necessary. You both acted with the information you had at the time. And now what? Jason asked. How do we proceed from here? Now? I told them, standing up to walk to my desk. It's time for you to learn about your inheritance. I showed them the documents I had prepared years ago, dividing my empire equally between them, but with specific conditions. Jason, you will inherit the boutiques and the textile factories, but there is a condition. What is it? You have to work in the business for 5 years, starting from the bottom, learning every aspect of the operation from the bottom as a floor salesman. I want you to understand what it's like to deal with all types of customers, what it's like to earn the respect of the employees, what it's like to build something through hard work. Jason nodded solemnly. I accept. Lauren, you will inherit the real estate properties and the financial investments, but your condition is different. What is it? I want you to use a significant portion of that inheritance to create charitable foundations, especially focused on education for low-income children. Lauren's eyes filled with tears. Mom, that's perfect, but you both have one additional condition that is non-negotiable. What is it? They asked in unison. You can never, ever use your wealth to mistreat other people. The money I'm giving you comes with the responsibility to use it to uplift others, not to belittle them. Of course, Mom, Jason said, and if I ever discover that you are using your position to humiliate or belittle someone, you will lose your entire inheritance immediately. Understood, they both said. 6 months later, I was sitting in my office reviewing the monthly reports when Mia walked in with a smile on her face. Ma'am, you have a visitor. Who is it? It's Jason, but I think you should see this for yourself. Jason walked into my office, but he didn't look like the Jason I knew. He was wearing the floor salesman's uniform from the boutique. He had a different energy in his eyes and a genuine smile on his face. Hey, Mom, do you have a minute to talk to one of your employees? Of course. How's your first month going? It's the hardest job I've ever done in my life and also the most gratifying. Tell me about it. Yesterday, I served a woman who came in dressed very simply. She was a widow like you and clearly didn't have much money. My old instincts told me to direct her to the clearance section. And what did you do? I gave her the exact same treatment I would give any other client. I showed her the whole store, explained the quality, and made her feel like the most important person in the world. She bought a $50 scarf, but Mom, the smile on her face was priceless. She told me it had been years since anyone had treated her with such kindness in a store. I felt my heart swell with pride. And how did that make you feel? Like I finally understood what you and Dad tried to teach me all these years. At that moment, I knew I had made the right decision. The pain of Thomas's funeral, the public humiliation, the destruction of Vanessa's career, it had all been worth it to reach this moment. Jason, I told him, your father would be so proud of the man you've become. Are you proud of me? Immensely. He came around my desk and took my hands. Mom, there's something else I want to tell you. What is it? Thank you for not letting me stay married to a woman who didn't respect you. Thank you for teaching me that real love includes defending the people you love, especially when they can't defend themselves. And Vanessa? I heard she's working at a department store now. From what I know, she's struggling financially, but that's not my responsibility. Do you feel bad about that now? I feel bad about the time I lost being blind to her true nature, but I don't feel bad about the natural consequences of her actions. 3 months later, I received an unexpected call. It was Vanessa. Miss Brooks, I know you probably don't want to talk to me, but I wanted to thank you. Thank me for teaching me the hardest lesson of my life, for showing me that actions have real consequences. And what have you learned, Vanessa? That respect isn't based on how much money someone has. That true elegance comes from how you treat people, especially those who can't help you in any way. I'm glad to hear that, Miss Cole. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I wanted you to know that I genuinely regret all the pain I caused you, and the lesson you taught me has made me a better person. I hung up the phone, feeling completely at peace. The revenge had been sweet, but the true satisfaction came from knowing that I had protected the values my husband and I had built over a lifetime. That night, as I watched the sunset from my office, I thought of Thomas. My love, I whispered. I finally learned to defend myself, and our children are going to be just fine. Justice had arrived, not just as vengeance, but as education, and that was the most important lesson of all. Did you like my story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you liked the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story. With love and respect.